Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto suchedoye valahadi samya samputoshe.
Namo sadanto suchedoye valahadi samya samputoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. 师父上人，各位师兄，大家阿弥陀佛. Venerable Master Dharma friends, welcome to our Sutra lecture. My name is Heng. Today we're going to be continuing our investigation of the Flower Garland Sutra, the Avatamsaka, looking into the chapter called Entering the Dharma Realm, Ru Fa Jiepin, known as the Gandavyuha chapter. And today we've encountered the verses that repeat the drama that we've just been through as the Buddha prepares to explain this chapter. So to get us going, we need to continue our protocols for the, let's see here, there we go, protocol for getting underway. And the next thing we're going to do is invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas to draw near. An invocation, asking for spiritual presence. So please join. Here we go. And we want to say that the Kombumerri people of the Ugambi language region practice their spiritual connections to land and to all creation here in the Gold Coast of Queensland, the southeastern Queensland, for tens of thousands of years. Today we acknowledge them as traditional custodians and the original storytellers of these lands. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations peoples whose sovereignty was never ceded. 就说空布梅里人在他们祖先的土地上修炼着他们和与土地和万物的精神联系已有数万年。今天我们承认他们是这些土地的传统监护人和原始讲故事的人，并且向他们过去、现在和新兴的长老们，我们表示敬意，以及主权从微博割让的所有第一民族人民们表示敬意。I'm going to add the character that I've been saying but haven't printed. See, 长老们, here we go. M-E-N, there we go. Man, got it. Now, the next thing we have to do is the bell song. And then our protocols are complete. So here we go. Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace. May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法让万亿国中，功勋起法界和平，利益报他诺厚德。Done. There we go. All right. Catch up, everyone. We are in the beginning stage of the chapter called Entering the Dharma Realm. It's the penultimate chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra, and it's number 39. So chapters 1 to chapters 38 are all the theory of how someone, in principle, should walk the Bodhisattva path if they are interested in following the steps of a Bodhisattva. This chapter, 39, takes all those principles and puts them into practice. And we have a practitioner, we have a hero who comes forward in our epic story and embodies all of the best qualities of a bodhisattva. His name is Sudhana. He's a young man. He's vigorous, strong, strapping, healthy, traveler, not the way Chinese Buddhist art has depicted Sudhana. They picture him as a little boy, like almost a baby, with little braids on his head, in the kind of clothes that you put on an infant. And that's only art. That's just the iconographic. That's not the reality. I'm ahead of myself because Sudhana hasn't showed up yet, but I just want people to get ready because he will show up. We'll meet him in about 4 or 5 weeks when we're done, maybe sooner, when we're done with this prelude, this preparation part. Sudhana, as far as I knew, his name in Chinese is Shancai Tongzi. Sudhana was just this, if you see Guanyin Bodhisattva, often there's 2 little children beside Guanyin, one's a little boy, one's a little girl, and that was what everybody thought Sudhana looked like, because he's called a Tongzi. a young boy before puberty. He's considered very teachable, very docile, you know the word, docere, able to be led, from the Latin docere. So he's young, he's impressionable, that's why he's a good student for all of the 53 teachers he meets. So that impression of a little boy is not the way the Avatamsaka Sutra gives us Sudhana. When we meet him, which will be in a short number of weeks, he is just what I've described just now. He could be an athlete. He's the leader of 500 other youths. So that means as a leader, he's got all the qualities of leadership. He's strong, he's bright, he's ambitious, he's, sturdy. He can take a lot of discomfort. He can take a lot of struggle, and he'll win. He's a leader. He's a chief. So I was in Wutaishan, Five Peaks Mountain, out in far west Shanxi province, and we were at the monastery. That is where it's called, is it Guangji? Is it Guangji Monastery, I believe? There's two Guangjis. There's a Guangji in Beijing, and there's a Guangji there. This is where Master Chengguan, Avatamsaka Bodhisattva, taught and wrote a lot of his lengthy commentary. So there we were, and the abbot of Guangji Monastery, Guangji Maopeng, it's called Guangji Maopeng, that's right. It's not a Maopeng. Maopeng means little hut. This is a big monastery, but it gets the name of Guangji Maopeng. And the abbot says, I know that you are interested in the Avatamsaka Sutra. He said, yeah, I really am. We're translating, I want to know as much as I can, and I'm excited to be where Master Chengguan lived and taught. He says, okay, come with me to the library. So we go to the library, and it's a special building, and there is a statue, there's an image. He says, meet the real Shancai Tongzi. And here was this image of this incredible, or what do they call it, adorned, meaning we don't say beautiful or handsome, that's kind of falling into beautiful and ugly duality, but we say adorned, meaning magnificent and noble and dignified image of a bodhisattva who looks awesome. He says, this is the real Shancai Tongzi. And so here he was. So ever since then, whenever I hear the word Tongzi, a young boy, a pure youth, I think he's not the baby that Buddhist iconography gives us. So we're about to meet him. We're not quite there yet, though. What do we have today? Today, next week, and probably the next week, we have 10 sets of poems, 10 sets of songs, 100 in all. 10 bodhisattvas, one from each of the 10 directions, are going to come forward and sing, each of them, 10 praises of the Buddha, which we've already met in the prose part. But now, because this is how the sutra is organized, we get to hear it all again in verse form. So this is musical. They are chanting. It's not just speaking. And in the past, when we get to these passages, we sing them. Doing it 100 times is going to be very tedious for everyone. And so I decided not to sing, not to try to add music to the English. We will do it for the Chinese because it's very meter, it's very regular. Da, 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 da. 5. They're ba, 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 ba. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da, 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 da. There's 5 characters per line, 20 characters per verse. So we're going to add a melody for the Chinese. But for the English, I want to recite it our original plan was to get through this second scroll simply by reciting without a break. But these verses are so good, they're so powerful, and they catch something very special about the Avatamsaka. So I want people to be able to digest them. I'm going to read them in a way that allows us to hear them in a whole new way. And one of the fun parts about this process is that in the Chinese Buddhist world, what people do with the Avatamsaka Sutra mostly is just recite it. They don't lecture on it, they don't investigate it, they don't explain it, they don't deal with it. They mostly just read the words off the page. Dot, 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 with a wooden fish, you know. 如是我闻亦是佛在是为. So I've heard from people over and over and over again. They say, this English translation that you've done of Master Hua's lecture, it's incredible. I understood the Avatamsaka for the very first time. It's got so much in it. You know, it's wonderful Dharma. Well, why didn't you know that before? Well, we just recited it lickety-split. We just went, you know, running past the words. We didn't have time. There was no time to absorb them. So I hope that is your experience too, that when you encounter these verses today, next week, and the following week, you'll be able to sample some of the banquet of wisdom that is part of this sutra. Again, what it is, it's bodhisattvas who heard that the Buddha was going to explain this text and came from afar. They traveled throughout the Dharma realm to the Jada Grove, here where the Buddha is, so they could hear his story of Sudhana, which is what we're going to find out. They're excited, they're thrilled, and they don't hold back in describing their joy at being able to be present when the Buddha speaks the Avatamsaka. Okay, so that's what we're about to encounter. Here we go. Scrolling up to the top. Okay. So it goes, 尔时毗卢遮那愿光明菩萨成佛神力观察十方而说颂言. At that time, Bodhisattva light of Vairochana's vows, aided by the Buddha's spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions and chanted these verses. Cha, 佛道不思议，于此十多林，实现神通力，善事为神力，所现无样数，一切诸世间，迷惑不能了，法王神妙法。无量难思议，所现诸神通，其实莫能测。一了法无相，是故名为佛。而具相庄严，称扬不可尽。今此林内，实现大神力。生生无有边，言辞莫能辨。无观大威德，无量菩萨众，十方诸国度，而来见世尊。所愿皆具足，所 所行无障碍，一切诸世间，无量车能者，一切诸缘觉，一大声闻，皆悉不能知。菩萨恒境界，菩萨大智慧，诸地悉究竟，高见勇猛闯，难遂难可等。诸大名称是无量三昧力，所现诸善变，法界悉充满。You should contemplate the inconceivable Buddha way inside the Jada Grove. The strength of psychic powers appears. The awesome spiritual strength of the well-gone one reveals what is without measure. All those in the world are confused and deluded. They cannot understand. The Dharma King's profound, wonderful Dharma is measureless and hard to imagine. The psychic powers that he manifests, none in the world can fathom. He understands that dharmas are free from hallmarks, which is why he's called the Buddha. He's replete with the adorning characteristics. His praises, his proclamations never end. And now, within this grove, he manifests vast spiritual powers. His profundity, fathomless, boundless, cannot be disputed. Contemplate these beings with great awesome virtue, measureless bodhisattvas assemblies, who from countries of the 10 directions have come to behold the world-honored one. Their vows are all accomplished, their practices unobstructed. In all worlds, none can reckon or measure them. All those awakened to conditions and the great voice hearers cannot know the states of the bodhisattva's practices. They enter states of the bodhisattva's great wisdom and the ultimate state of all the grounds, loftily, sending aloft the banner of courage, invincible. They are hard to shake. These knights of great renown, with the powers of limitless samadhis, manifest spiritual transformations which fill the entire Dharma realm. Okay, if I had to say, what am I looking for? I'd say Shakespeare. If I don't know who of you listening in today has in recent time been to a well-produced Shakespearean production where the narrator, in order to find out, are you in Verona? You know, are you in some sun-blasted Italian town where families are fighting a gang war? Are you on some storm-tossed moor where King Lear is breathing his last as his 3 daughters try to negotiate the demise of their father, the king? Are you on an island where Prospero and Ariel are bringing us for the tempest, you know, with the sound of the ocean in the background? Shakespeare gave us all these different venues for the story, and each one of them had to be explained by a narrator. And the narrator comes out and says, in a voice able to be heard in the back of the round theater, the people who are standing, because they only had a penny, they're standing in the cheap seats, they have to stand, they can't even sit. And then there's the boxes in the back where the royalty sits. The voice of the narrator has to give you the picture to set the play up. I feel like that person in the English. That's the way it should be, so that we can hear the humanity in the voices of the bodhisattvas. They are really there in front of the Buddha and all the other 9 directions bodhisattvas, including all their followers. They're communicating from their hearts, their joy and their amazement at the presence of the Buddha and what he's doing. So they are, in a way, narrators. They're telling you the story. Kind of like, would you say, a bard, kind of like a griot, G-R-I-O-T, a griot, the storyteller of the tribe, kind of like a minstrel who only has his lute and his voice to communicate all of the news that he wants to bring to the people in the marketplace, right? All of these communicators are here in the voices of the bodhisattvas. So I'm trying to bring it to that level so that you use your ears to hear my voice channeling the bodhisattvas as they are in the assembly praising the Buddha and the Dharma. That's what I'm aiming for, and kind of a challenge, but I think we'll get there. Okay, number 2, Bodhisattva number 2 out of 10. Ready? 尔时不可坏精进王菩萨成佛身力观察十方而说颂言. At that time, Bodhisattva, ruler of indestructible vigor, aided by the Buddha's spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions and chanted these verses. The strap helps. There we go. Gets it just right.观诸佛子，智慧功德藏，究竟菩提行，安稳诸世间。其心本明大，善如诸三昧，智慧无边际，境界不可量。今此十多林，种种皆言是，菩萨众云集，亲近如来住。如观无所照，无量大众海，十方来一次，作宝莲花座。无来亦无住，无依无系论，离垢心无碍，究竟于法界。建立智慧窗，坚固不动摇，持无变化法，而现变化时，十方无量刹，一切诸佛所，同时希望一，而一不分身。如观世世子，自在神通力，能令菩萨众一切俱来集，一切诸佛法，法界悉平等，言说各无不同，此中显通达。诸佛常安住，法界平等集，言说差别法，言辞无有尽。Says, contemplate all the Buddha's disciples, their treasuries of wisdom and virtue. Having reached the ultimate Bodhi practices, they bring peace and calm to all worlds. Their minds, inherently bright and understanding, are adept at entering the samadhis. Their wisdom is boundless, their states immeasurable. And now, within the Jada Grove, with everything adorned, cloud-like assemblies of bodhisattvas gather, drawing near to the thus come one's abode. Contemplate their non-attachment, these measureless oceans of great assemblies arriving from the 10 directions, they're seated upon jewel lotus thrones, with no coming and no resting, no relying, no idle dispute, leaving defilement behind. Their minds are unobstructed. They are ultimate in the Dharma realm. Erecting the banner of wisdom, firm, solid, unmoving, they know that dharmas have no transforming, and yet they manifest events of transformation. From the measureless kshetras of the 10 directions, from all the Buddha's places, simultaneously they arrive without leaving their bodies. Contemplate the lion, Shakyamuni, with his powers of self-mastery and psychic abilities, who can make the bodhisattva multitudes assemble all together. All the Buddha's Dharma impartially pervades the Dharma realm through words and speech. Though words and speech are different, this assembly understands them all. The Buddhas always peacefully abide in the Dharma realm's ultimate equality, proclaiming a variety of dharmas. Their words and phrases have no end. Okay, one of the things that happens as we go through it slowly like this is my ear goes clunk on some of the phrases here. And while by and large this translation is much improved from the first version back in the 1980s, so we have 40 years of translation behind us, there are still kind of stumbles. And here it is. 知无变化法而现变化识. One by one, it goes like this. Come on. There we go. Oh. Doesn't want to grow bigger. Yes, you do. I'm going to close you and bring you back. Okay. There we go. Hello. Oops. It doesn't want to behave right now. Why not? Strange. Okay, we'll let it be. So, 知无变化法, it says, no change, teach Dharma, yet make appear change, teach, event. What in the world? What does that say? Let's see here. I'm going to stop sharing my screen briefly and then see what's happening here. There we go. Okay. Try again. There we go. Yeah. Thank you. Here we go. Knowing, no change, teach, Dharma, yet still, on the other hand, make appear, change, teach, things, events. Oops. Shit. Hello. So what is this? Bodhisattvas, our translation says, they know that dharmas are free from transformations, yet they manifest events of transformation. It's talking about, we need to translate it one more time. Keep working on that. That's not home yet. What it means is these bodhisattvas, with their wisdom, have already, in their samadhis, as they meditate, they have seen the self break up. They understand that the self that is so important to people before we begin to cultivate. You say one bad thing to me, you raise an eyebrow at me, and you're going to answer, you can't diss me, you can't disrespect or have the slightest judgment of my version of myself. The self that I'm telling, the story that I'm telling about myself is untouchable. And if you have an opinion about that, we will come to blows. And if we happen to be in America, it might even lead to shots. It might even pull out my gun to defend my story of myself that I tell myself, which is constantly in flux, but you can't have any opinion about that. So bodhisattvas in their meditation have deconstructed that one. That story is not in charge of their lives. They know it's just a flow of karma, of DNA, which is also karma bound, of either nurture or nature. Maybe this is the style at the moment. Maybe they're reacting to something that someone told them that gave them insecurity, and so they feel they must defend the self. On and on and on. It's a flow. It's a constant process of building and tearing down this view of self. Furthermore, their meditation has shown them, step by step, using scientific, empirical analysis that they conduct themselves. They know that the world around them is a projection of their mind. The world around them is also a result of their deeper views, their perspectives, their biases, their prejudices, the language they use, the people they encounter. All of this is a process of projecting out into the world around them. So self and dharmas break up. They don't perceive them the way they used to. As we age, we're still very much alive, but our experience of life changes as this is Buddhist technical language, the skandhas ripen. How many folks saw that incredibly moving, okay, I'm gonna pause on that one, hold that thought. They manifest events of transformation. What does it mean to manifest events of transformation? It means they teach. One word, they teach. They know that dharmas don't have any real change to them. It's we who change around the world that we project. And still, with that knowledge, bodhisattvas can teach us. Manifest events of transformation, that's Chinglish. That's being led by the Chinese grammar, are xian, bian, hua, shi, right? When we could just say, and yet they're able to teach, even though they know that dharmas are only there as a bubble, as a lightning flash, as a dewdrop, as a reflection in a mirror, right? Okay, so how many people remember it? This was it was a YouTube video, and it was the only thing people were talking about on the blogosphere and the podcast world for a couple weeks. There was an old African-American gentleman, and he was an old grandpa, and he was a resident of a senior's home. And somehow, as his skandhas were decaying, right, as he was aging, he had retreated into himself. And nobody on the staff at the senior's home, the care facility, was able to get a reaction to him. He simply sat in his chair. And he was kind of, you might say, catatonic, you might say comatose. He was alive, and everybody liked him because he didn't give anybody trouble. And they would always say, oh, come on, Mr. Thompson. Come on, Mr. Thompson. Just give us a smile, Mr. Thompson. How are you today, Mr. Thompson? Mr. Thompson was just like that. He was alive, but not really. And then his daughter came in. And his daughter, I think this was in Detroit, if I recall correctly. And his daughter said, well, I brought a Walkman today. I would like to, she said, I heard somebody say that elders respond to music. She said, I brought my Walkman and a headset. Would you mind if I put this on my father? And of course, no, of course, try it, says the staff, kind-hearted staff. So she takes this cheap set of headphones, puts him on Dad, and plays a mixtape of his favorite music. And he was a young man in the 30s, and his favorite was Cab Calloway. Cab Calloway was famous for scat lines, doodly abba daba, doodly abba dooba, like that. And he was a band leader. Cab Calloway was fantastic talent. And he could dance like his joints were floating through space. So she put the headphones on Dad, pressed the play button on the Walkman, and his eyes lit up. And as the music bypassed the decay of his consciousness as his brain aged, it spoke to another part of his brain and lit up his life. And he came alive, and he started to sing along, and he started to nod, and he said, "That's my music," he said. And he knew the songs, every word, and his brain lit up. And the staff in the seniors' home were just delighted because finally, old Mr. Thompson had life. And they were just, from that time on, they would say, "Mr. Thompson, would you like your music?" "I want music," he said. They and he would sing along and dance and was so happy. And they had added years to his life, and it put life in those years as well. So it was just, we could find it right now if I went out to YouTube. But that is an example of how bodhisattvas skillfully, right, can manifest events of transformation. No, they teach. They know that, what was it? It was just this old gentleman hearing music that he had enjoyed in his youth when he was a vital married man, a husband, a father, an employee or a boss, and yet the years had made it wasn't Alzheimer's, it wasn't that, it was just degenerative aging. And by making the music, giving him the music again, it was touching nerve sense memories that brought him back to life. So that's what it means. Manifest events of transformation. Yeah. Okay. Teach. Bodhisattvas knowing that, what was it? It was just sound. It was vibrations in his ear. So those dharmas have nothing, there's nothing that you can grab. And yet the power and the causes and conditions are such that it was enough to bring him back to life and make him part of the community in a way that was all of the staff and his daughter had been hoping for. Okay, so translations. Translations are really important. Look at how the bodhisattvas simultaneously arrive in the Jada Grove without leaving their bodies. What? Yep. That's what happens when the Dharma brings to life your Dharma body, your reward body, and your transformed or response bodies. Bodhisattvas travel to the Jada Grove to hear the Buddha speak, and yet physically they are still in their individual worlds of the 10 directions. How does that work? Avatamsaka Sutra. Thank you very much. Look at the lion, Shakyamuni, powers of self-mastery, psychic powers. He can not cause the bodhisattva multitudes, he can bring the bodhisattva multitudes to assemble together. He can bring them here because they want to hear from him. Oh, and with this power of wisdom that the bodhisattvas have cultivated, look at this, each one of them comes from a different world, they speak different languages, but with the way they have cultivated their own mind ground and peeled away the layers of ignorance and culture and custom that covers us over, that we cling to, that's gone from their minds through their meditation, so they understand every language being spoken around them. What is language? Vibration. It's just slightly moving the sound in a different way, and as a result, they're able to, they have like a universal translator right in their own mind. How marvelous is that? you go to Hong Kong and people around you are speaking Cantonese, and you say, sorry, I don't understand. And they go, oh, you speak Cantonese very well. You say, no, I don't. That's all I know to say. I don't understand. 哇，你听不懂啊？哎呀，奇怪啊！哦，你应该努力哦，你会讲这种广东话啊，好高兴啊 ，you know, and it's like, nope, right there, English, Cantonese, Mandarin, you need them all three to thrive in Hong Kong. But what's the difference? It's still same voice, the same ears. How strange, right? These bodhisattvas are very different beings than the voice hearers, the Shravakas, that we were hearing critiqued for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Okay, I'm gonna close this again. Let's see, not gonna save it. Send it back. There we go. And gonna share my screen. There we are. Gonna bring it back up. And here we go. Let's see if it will now behave correctly. Down to the verses. Scrolling. Here we go. These are the stories of, these are the bodhisattvas from all the directions. We've heard that. This is now Buddha talking about the Shravakas who don't understand what's going on. And here we are. We've done 2 of the bodhisattvas' passages. And there we are. Let's see here. That's number 1. Here's number 2. Ready for number 3. Let's listen in. See if this were a radio, we'd be tuning to the Jade Grove station, listening to the bodhisattvas praise the Buddha. 尔时普圣无上唯德王菩萨成佛神力，观察十方而说颂言。At that time, Bodhisattva, universal supreme king of unsurpassed awesome virtue, aided by the Buddha's spiritual power, contemplated the 10 directions and chanted these verses. 如观无上师，广大智圆满，善得是非是，无中言说，为中言说法。 随附中外道，一切诸议论，普随众生心，为显神通力，正觉非有量，亦复非无量。若量若无量，牟尼已超越。 而在虚空，照临一切处，佛智亦如是，了达30法。譬如十五月，月轮无间月，如来亦复然，爱法悉圆满，月轮无间缺。 That's the right way to say that line. Here we go. 譬如空中日，云行无沾衣，如来亦如是，身边恒相续。譬如十方刹，于空无所碍，是等现变化，于是亦复然。 譬如世间地，群生之所依，教士等法论，唯一如是。 譬如梦疾风，所行无障碍。佛法亦如是，数遍于世间。Last one. 譬如大水轮，世界所依著，智慧轮一二三是佛所依。And what he said was, contemplate the unsurpassed night, whose vast, great, perfect wisdom is adept at knowing what is the right time and what is not, as he proclaims the Dharma for the multitudes. He conquers and subdues the heretics and their bizarre theories. Universally according with beings' minds, he manifests the strength of psychic powers. Right awakening is measureless, yet it is not lacking measure. Whether it has measure or is measureless, the Muni has transcended it entirely. As the sun in space illumines all places, so too the Buddha's wisdom penetrates the dharmas of the 3 periods of time. Just as on the 15th night of the lunar month, the moon is perfectly round and full, the thus come one too is the same way. His pristine dharmas have all reached perfection. As the sun moves through the sky without a moment's hesitation, the thus come one is that way too. His spiritual changes eternally proceed. The kshetras of the 10 directions are unobstructed in space, yet the lamp of the world makes transformations appear in the world. It is like that too. Just as the earth is a place of reliance for the multitudes, the Dharma wheel's lamp that illumines the world is a place of reliance. As a strong, swift wind whips along unobstructed, so too does the Buddha Dharma quickly pervade the world. As the great water wheel is the world's reliance and dwelling, so too the wisdom wheel is the reliance of all Buddhas, past, present, and future. All right, the quality of this set of verses is nature. Our Bodhisattva is tuned in to natural imagery, and he compares the Buddha Dharma to these qualities of nature. And I like that he subdues the heretics with their bizarre theories. Yeah. So this one, right awakening, it's beyond measuring, and yet it doesn't lack measure. When you wake up, you can completely know the granular details, and yet you can put the micro into the macro in every detail. Okay, now we start. The sun in space shines everywhere. The Buddha's wisdom penetrates dharmas. The full moon, perfectly round and full. The Buddha is the same way, with every dharma cultivated to perfection. So we have the sun, we have the moon. As the sun goes through the sky without stopping for a second, look at this one. The thus come one, in this way too, has spiritual changes that eternally proceed. Let's take a look at that. What does that say? Okay, what we have Piru, just like space, sun. The sun in space, Yunxing Wu Zhan Yi, travels, never pauses even the slightest bit. The Tathagata, Buddha's, same way. Shenbian Heng Xiang Xu. Okay, what does this mean? Spiritual changes eternally proceed. Shenbian here, it's talking about how the Buddha teaches without pause. Shenbian means his wisdom powers, the 10 powers of the Buddha, which are they're diagnostic tools so that the teacher can respond to what we need to hear and teach us in ways that never stop. Now, why point this out? Who thinks nirvana means extinction? Who thinks the Buddha, once he enters nirvana, is gone and kind of reborn in heaven where it's very comfortable? and that's it. Goodbye, Buddha. This line would give us a different description of nirvana. Look at this. How do you imagine nirvana works? What's going on when the Buddha enters nirvana? Here he is, not stopping his teaching career. Interesting, huh? So I think it's important to point this out. Shenbian Heng Xiangxu, spiritual changes constantly continuing. So does that mean the Buddha is still growing? No. What do we know about the state of Buddhahood? It's no more ignorance. The Buddha's ignorance is done. Bodhisattvas, on the other hand, still hang on to a bit so that they are tuned in to living beings, okay? So that they can teach them, and we sentient beings can respond. We get along with the bodhisattvas. We take them as friends, we take them as colleagues, we take them as teachers who we respect and want to believe in and follow. So Buddhas, on the other hand, they say are pretty awesome. Buddhas they shine. Their nature is entirely uncovered, and it's brilliant, and you can often feel like you're a little bit of a sunburn. So Buddhas are awesome and kind, truly kind, but we have our secrets, we have our dark corners and shadows, and constantly being lit up by somebody whose nature is completely alive, completely awake, is a little unsettling. So what does the Buddhas do? They use their Rulai Shili, Shizhili, their 10 wisdom powers, to, in subtle, accurate, precise ways, put sentient beings on the diagnostic table, just like a doctor, and they take your pulse and they listen to your lungs with the stethoscope, and they check your tongue out, stick out your tongue, right? And they know exactly how to teach in a way that doesn't upset us, that doesn't frighten us, that doesn't discourage us, that doesn't bore us. They know exactly what to say and when. They know the time, they know our karmic makeup, they know our past history, past lives, they know what we can understand, they know the language to use, and with that knowledge, they teach in a way that works. They're very accurate. This is called the Shan Qiao Fang Bian Fa. They come up with a skillful means of teaching us, clever, expedient means that goes right past our defenses to a place that encourages us to cultivate on our own. Ultimately, we have to go through the gate. The expedient means are there to encourage us, like a good coach. So there was a time, I haven't said this for a while, but it made sense to me when describing the Buddha looking for an analogy, what would the Buddha be like in the 21st century? Probably the best analogy is like a coach, right? In Chinese is 教练, right? Is somebody who, what does a coach do? The coach shows us how to do it, encourages us to do it, trains us in the way to do this particular move, this particular exercise, and then creates all the conditions for us to get out on the field to use that new skill, that new gong fu, that new move, and it's up to us to do it right and watch how the ball goes through the net. We score the goal. We, sink the three-pointer from behind the arch. Yeah, we manage the layup perfectly, threading through the defenders, and we score. The coach doesn't touch the ball. He doesn't make us perform skillfully. What do they say? They 师父临经门，修行在个人. The Buddha shows us how, but we ourselves must walk through the door. We have to walk through the gate. The teacher takes us to the gateway, but entering or not is up to us, right? So here's the Bodhisattva, Shenbian Heng Xiangxu. His skillful, his spiritual changes constantly grow. It's not that the Buddha, once he becomes Buddha, has more ignorance to transform. No, it's that he is always employing these methods to teach us. Okay. When European scholars first encountered Buddhism, probably Sri Lanka was the place where Buddhism was alive. It wasn't in India. But the European scholars of the 19th to 20th century heard about nirvana. They used their best English translation to describe what they understood, and what they come up with? Extinction. Nirvana was the Buddha went extinct. Well, maybe a description of an arhat, no further becoming. Maybe extinction sounded right, but we're talking about the Buddha from the Avatamsaka Sutra, from the Dharma realm. And the Buddha is very much alive and active and constantly finding ways to teach living beings, right? That's how do you interpret, what does it say? It says, the thus come one is that way too, just like the sun going through the sky, without hesitating for a moment, his spiritual changes eternally proceed. Because why? We need teaching. The Buddha's compassion is alive. The lamp of the world makes transformations appear, just like worlds of the 10 directions in space had no obstruction. So the Buddha is the same way. He wants us to wake up, so he is teaching us in ways that connect. So, okay, more natural imagery, right? The earth is a place where a place of reliance for the multitudes. Yeah, we stand on it, that's right. The Dharma wheel lamp illumines the world is a place of reliance. The lamp that illumines the world, that was the title of one of the very first books that brought Buddhism to an English-speaking audience. Zhao Shideng, the Light of Asia, it was called. William Arnold. So, yeah, still in print. It's a long poem describing the Buddha, the Light of Asia. Here's a wind that whips along unobstructed, and so does the Buddha Dharma pervade the world. Now, this one is interesting because this is from Buddhist cosmology. A water wheel, we have to step out of our daily flow of reality and ecosystems to look through the Buddha's eyes at wind wheels and water wheels. You could say it's a little bit like gravity. This is the Buddhist description of how the universe is built. And each world system depends upon wheels of water, wheels of wind. And this is how the Buddhas rely as well. Okay, so there we go. That's number 3. 3 bodhisattvas worth of praises. Pretty rich, pretty powerful. Comments from last week's lecture. On YouTube, people said, gee, I really like the Mangala Sutta, each of the highest blessings. I'd like to hear the whole thing, they said. I always tease. I get halfway through and stop. highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Okay, Chinese speakers will have to read the Hanzi here, but you can do that. That way you know what's going on. 你们讲中文的人呢，要看那个汉字，好吧？ Thus I have heard that the Blessed One was staying at Shravasti, residing at the Jada Grove in Anathapindika's park. Then in the dark of the night, a radiant Deva illuminated the Jada Grove. She bowed down low before the Blessed One, then standing to one side she said, Devas are concerned for happiness and ever long for peace. The same is true for humankind. What then are the highest blessings? Okay, there's our Dharma request. She's talking to the Buddha. The rest is the Buddha speaking, and we can join in the chorus. Ready? Avoiding those of foolish ways, associating with the wise, honoring those worthy of honor. Here we go. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Living in places of suitable kinds with the fruits of past good deeds and guided by rightful way. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Accomplished in learning and craftsman skills, with discipline, highly trained, speech that is true and pleasant to hear. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Okay, we got one more is usually where we stop, but we'll go on down to the end. Here we go. Providing for mother and father's support, cherishing family, ways of work that harm no be. Join me. 是为最吉祥. These are highest blessings. Okay, hold that thought. Generosity and a righteous life, offering help to relatives and kin, acting in ways that leave no blame. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Steadfast in restraint and shunning evil ways, avoiding intoxicants that dull the mind, and heedfulness in all things that arise. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Okay, remember this is the Buddha's voice telling us how to live in a way that guarantees happiness. Respectfulness and humble ways, contentment and gratitude, hearing the Dharma frequently taught. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Patient and willing to accept one's faults, seeing venerated seekers of the truth, sharing the words of Dharma often. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. blessings. Ardent, committed to the holy life, seeing for yourself the noble truths, realizing nirvana is our highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Y'all keeping track? Y'all checking them off on your list? Although involved in worldly tasks, unshaken, the mind remains beyond sorrow, spotless, secure. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Okay, the Buddha summarizes and concludes by saying, they who live by following this path know victory wherever they go, and every place for them is safe. These are highest blessings. These are highest blessings. Okay, there we go. That's called the Mangala Sutta. And when the monks from the forest tradition chant it, oh, it sounds so good. They chant it in Pali, and I've been, was at Amaravati in England when on a feast day, and all the monks had gathered and all the laity had come to make offerings, and my bones felt like they were vibrating. The assembled sound of the entire gathering chanting the Mangala Sutta in Pali just excited my bone marrow. I felt like I came out of there with sonic acupuncture. Revitalized, renewed, very powerful, very wonderful. So, okay, let's see here. We did 3 sets of Bodhisattvas praises. There's 7 more to go. We'll do another 3 or 4 next week and then conclude. And after that, let me show you. Okay, look, you can see how it looks to have a preview of coming attractions. Here's we did 3. So here's number 4, 10 verses. Here's number 5, 10 praises. Here's number 6, 10 stanzas. Here's number 7, 10 songs or poems. Here's number 8, more of the same. There's number 9, 10 of them. And finally, Bodhisattva, king of psychic powers, various vows, and wisdom of the Dharma realm. What a name for a Bodhisattva. He gives the last. Those are the last 10. What does it say? End of section 1. Okay. Does that say end of section 1? Should it say end of section 2? Take a look here again. Oh, so many verses. Lots of them. End of section 1, it says, okay. So, scroll 60, we go, there we go, that's it. We go from there. Oh, I was showing you and I hadn't shared my screen. One of these days, I'll learn how to do that. I want to show you again. There we go. Okay. Giving you a preview and then not letting you see it sounds kind of cruel, doesn't it? So let me get my scroll button. Okay. We started here today with the first of the verses, and we have to go look at all the verses. Whoa, all the way down. You seasick yet? All the way to the end. There are 10 sets of 10 verses each, 100. We did 30 today. We'll do 30 or 40 next week, and we'll follow with 30 or 30 more. We're done, and what happens next is Manjushri Bodhisattva. comes down amid humanity, it says. Manjushri has been, Manjushri is one of the most, and he's here, he's right there on the altar. Manjushri Bodhisattva, there he is. He is one of the more inconceivable of the spokespersons of the Avatamsaka assembly. He and Samantabhadra figure largely in the Avatamsaka. And why? It's hard to know quite what to say about Samantabhadra because he has been a Buddha 6 times already. And yet he returns as a bodhisattva at this time in this assembly to help the Buddha Shakyamuni, who actually speaks the Avatamsaka as Vairochana. So mystery upon mystery, right? But Manjushri couldn't stop teaching. He was a Buddha. He had completely transformed his ignorance and taken it away from his nature, and yet he preferred to appear as a bodhisattva. That was where he could do the teaching that he wanted to do. And yet, as a bodhisattva, he's pretty astonishing. The sutra describes him, wherever he travels, spontaneous miracles. The earth opens up and there are caches of jewels. Trees blossom once, 2, 3 times in a season. The leaves, they blossom, the leaves fall, they blossom again. People who see him spontaneously realize samadhi. Their minds are calm and quiet. Manjushri is an awesome personage. And so he shows up. And there are 6,000 bhikshus being led by Shariputra. Oh-ho. Shariputra, who was just slammed in a couple weeks ago as being a hopeless Shravaka, voice here, and yet he is the greatly wise one among the disciples. Ooh, how does that work? So Shariputra respects Manjushri. He takes his 6,000 monks who he's teaching, his 6,000 students behind him, all show up, and at sight of Manjushri, they spontaneously enter samadhi. Their dharma, their fa yen, their dharma eye, their dharma vision is purified. They attain states of eloquence, and they're made quite happy and inspired to become bodhisattvas themselves. So Manjushri shows up, all these wonderful things happen, and he goes to a place called the Town of Blessings, Fuchang. And from the Town of Blessings, as Manjushri shows up in a park out of town, just, on the outskirts. And from the town come leaders of the town, kings and leaders, social leaders. And then comes this group of young people. And all the youth show up. And they're thrilled to meet Manjushri. And at their head, the leader of this group of youth is somebody named Sudhana. Good and wealthy, wholesome wealth. Shantai, skillful and rich. All these different translations of Sudhana. And he goes, oh, I want to meet Manjushri. I want to ride in his great vehicle, he says. Let me ride in that carriage, he says. He starts praising. So we're going to run this long section of spontaneous spoken word poetry spoken by Sudhana. Manjushri, in his turn, praises Sudhana. He says, this is someone who can hold the Dharma. He is someone who can really keep the Dharma going. I pick him out. He's the one who's going to, in a single lifetime, accomplish Buddhahood. So the Bodhisattva praises him. The praisee praises the Bodhisattva back and gets ready. He says, yeah, I want to ride in that carriage. So I thought, wow, what a great, for the automotive industry. May I ride in that carriage, he says. Yan wo zai ci cheng, he says, I want to ride in that vehicle. So you think, wow, is it a minivan? Is it an SUV? Is it electric? Is it a hybrid? Maybe it's got ported Venturi carburetors and torsion bar suspension. Who knows what it's got? Pirelli tires. So after their encounter, Manjushri says, okay, you need to go south. And I want you to go south, and I want you to meet a bhikshu. And this bhikshu is your good teacher. He will tell you how to truly respect, make offerings to, and get close to true, good advisors. So Sudhana says, but does that mean I have to leave you? I just met you. I want to stay with you. Manjushri says, south. Your teacher is going south. Go ahead. Don't worry. So for the first time in this chapter, Sudhana experiences emotion. He cries at saying goodbye to Manjushri Bodhisattva. He's just met him and he's got to go away. Oh no. So that's how it happens. And he does. He circles Manjushri. They say, Rao Muliangta. He goes around limitless times, circling to the right, that like the way you do to a stupa, and bows to him. Sudhana is always bowing. That's one of the things he does. He's constantly making prostrations because he is teachable. He is docile, D-O-C-I-L-E, docirate, able to be taught. And he's the perfect student. And Manjushri says, when you go to him, ask him, how do you cultivate bodhisattva practices? How do you walk the bodhisattva path? And he will answer. So he gives him instructions, tells him what direction to go in, pushes him away, breaks the student-disciple teacher attachment, and sends him off. Our story begins. That is the proper beginning of the story. So what follows next is what's called an epic. And this is key, I think, that people who have never touched a Mahayana Sutra have no knowledge that the Mahayana has epic literature. They think, oh, it's just this so lofty philosophy, nobody can really understand it, it's full of Sanskrit. If you make one mistake in explaining it, you'll fall into the hells. This is really dangerous stuff, so don't read them. Well, Master Hua said, you know what? You got to read these sutras. These sutras are a mirror that show you your true face. You have a problem you can't understand? Read the sutra. You'll find the answer there. This is wonderful stuff that we need every day to help us understand the world. And so you open up the sutra. This is an epic. And you think in Western literature, European literature, we have Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is the kind of the oldest layer of epic literature. What is an epic? There's a hero. He's on a quest. He faces danger. He gets wounded. He returns triumphant. And Odysseus, right? The Odyssey. So Odysseus, Ulysses, goes out and fulfills all of the requirements of an epic. Every major culture has every traditional historical culture have their epic. There's Scandinavian epics, right? The sagas. And the Song of Roland is an epic, and on and on. Mahayana Buddhism has epic literature. Sudhana does everything that heroes are meant to do. And it's right there. It's marvelous stuff. He's very relatable. And the reason why the world doesn't know about it is before Master Hua, before Thomas Cleary, and now before Bhikshu Hongsho, Kalavinka, Bhikshu Dharma Mitra, you had to speak Chinese if you wanted to read the epic. Well, not any longer. We're opening it up. So speakers of English and Vietnamese and Chinese can all overcome those obstacles and pick up the Ganda Vyuha, entering the Dharma realm, the saga of Sudhana, the epic literature of our young man who goes to Buddhahood. So coming up, right, we're getting close. That's what's ahead. Previews of coming attractions. All right, as I see on my control panel here, Jin Wei Shi has logged on, and I'd like to ask Jin Wei Shi, please, to let us know what's the latest from the Berkeley Monastery.
Yes, hello, Dharma Master.
Hi there.
And hi, everyone. We are coming to the Berkeley site. And the first announcement, but I want to say that tomorrow we're back online. We have a few days of break.
Okay.
And today we start early morning, 4 a.m. with morning ceremony. We have a noon recitation, 12:30 p.m. And this is only Zoom. And I highly recommend it. It's 30 minutes every day. We try to recite the Buddha's name. And 6:30 p.m. it will be an evening ceremony. So we're back to our normal routine. And so people can join us. And morning and evening ceremony are both available on YouTube channel, our Dharma Realm Live, as well as Zoom. And we are very happy to receive a first, after 3 years, visit of Abhagiri monks. It was last Tuesday. Those who didn't have a chance, it will be next month. And we'll see here is on June 6th and July 4th, and will continue until, I guess, December. So definitely is highly recommended.
Yeah, that's great. Okay.
And we have mindfulness to heartfulness retreat at Sudhana Center. I guess are pretty packed, but I heard that it could maybe a few free places could be found. So those who considering to join, I highly encourage to sign up as fast as possible.
Okay.
And
Stuff.
And we have, our weekly lectures. And yesterday, Professor Marty Verhoeven was talking about the lecture about Avatamsaka Sutra.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow, Rev Heng Sure will lecture Avatamsaka Sutra as well. But it will be a different channel, and we can click on the website. Yes, we have a link for Zoom. Those who need translation can join translation, and it's also live streamed on YouTube, and it's City of 10,000 Buddhas live YouTube channel.
There it is.
And I think this is mainly the last thing, that in the next Friday it will be last Marty class in this semester. So those who want to say hi to Marty, and this is possible, they can come and join in person. And start at 7:30 with meditation, and 8:15 p.m. it will be a lecture, and until 9. So this is what we have for the next upcoming week.
Okay, thank you, Jinwei Shi. I wanted to also point out that if we go to gcdr.org.au, that's Australia, we're proud of our brand new Gold Coast Dharma Realm website. Very beautiful, brand new website. Lots of features, you can see it's quite lovely. We've got maps, recorded talks, stories, images, videos, on and on. And it's all beautifully packaged in a brand new website. So please do check it out and enjoy. There we are. Yeah. Okay. So another week and more Avatamsaka Sutra. We're moving into winter here in the Gold Coast. All the animals are eating twice as much as normal because the cold weather is coming. We're going to be down below 50 degrees this coming week, 8 degrees, 9 degrees Celsius, and that's in the 40s. So the critters are trying to pack away at the calories. We had a medium-sized young python who was sunning himself on our steps yesterday over by the dining room. And so we're into winter. And Ukiah, City of 10,000 Buddhas, had rain again, unseasonal rain. In California, they say the snowpack, which is 240% of normal, is not melting. It's staying cold. So they're saying this is going to, who would think that The problem is now too much snow, too much water, and we just now basically come out of drought. So, yeah, we've kind of upset the natural balance of things. And people don't, who says that one of the major contributions to climate change, climate disruption, could be what's on our dinner plate? Large-bodied animals that we cut the trees down so they have grazing space. But those trees are the lungs of the planet, and we love our hamburgers, but we probably love, normal rainfall and cycles of dry and wet even more. So, yeah, and the amount of water needed to raise a single hamburger, 60 pounds. The same amount of water could raise 60 pounds of grain, which could then go into all kinds of bread and cakes and pies and things that could feed lots of people. That same 60 pounds of grain creates a single pound of ground beef. So, who gets to eat that hamburger versus who gets to eat all of the wholesome food that could come from using that grain directly into people's bodies instead of putting it into cows' bodies first and then eating the cow. But don't get me started, especially at the end of the lecture. Who would think that what we eat has so much to do with the what we're leaving to our children and grandchildren? Are they going to forgive us when the weather is entirely broken? Who are they going to blame? Ayo. Here we go. It's all a matter of, what do they say? Deeds of transformation, transformation deeds. Just how we learn. How do we make use of the information that's available to us? Well, one way, if you don't, as they used to say on KSAN and KSAN in San Francisco, they said, if you don't like the news, make some of your own. So how do you do that? Dedicate merit. Here we go. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. The only thing left to do is to join us in bowing to the Buddha. Make first bow. Second bow. And third bow. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. Okay, I wasn't entirely truthful. There is one more thing to do, which is to appreciate the deed of goodness by Kusuma in Singapore 2 years back. On Buddha's birthday morning, I shared my time to support a mother who had to deal with relating the event of her daughter's death from COVID. I lent strength for her to deal with her fear and distress. A lovely illustration and a true story. We will certainly send music to Kusuma for that act of kindness. Amitofo, everyone. See you all next week. Bye now.